Well, shifting our focus to America now, the U.S. House of Representatives has passed the Save America Act as a measure to overhaul the voting regulations in the country just months before a critical midterm election. On Wednesday this week, congressional representatives voted 218 to 213 to pass the legislation, which will now be presented in the Senate for a vote, where it will face a tougher challenge. Once the bill is passed and signed, it will be implemented effective immediately, pushing the state administrations to align to the new law.
Everyone in the country understands the necessity of that, understands how simple it is and how important it is. And the only people that oppose it are people who want to cheat our system, who want to participate in our elections illegally, unlawfully. And that's not fair to the American people and the citizens of this country.
This is part of U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to overhaul the voting process. He proposes three major changes. First, he wants every voter to show identification before they are allowed to cast their ballot. Second, Trump wants to make citizenship mandatory for voter registration. And third, he wants to change about the U.S.'s electoral process is the mail-in ballots. Trump says no mail-in ballots should be allowed, barring some exceptions. Republicans backed the measure, calling it a necessity to protect election integrity. Democrats, on the other hand, strongly opposed this bill, calling it a move to, quote, suppress the voter. Under the American Constitution, state governments control the election process. They're entrusted with voter identification and electoral roll. But the Congress can step in at any time to make the law or alter regulations that are made by the state authorities. Let me go across to our correspondent Susan Tehrani. She's joining us live from New York at the moment. Susan, this is a significant development that has happened. This is something that the Donald Trump administration has been wanting ahead of the midterm elections. That's the Save America Act. But clearly the Democrats are against it. They say this is, controlling and suppressing the voters. Get us the latest reactions and the, general sentiment among the voters at the moment as far as this act is concerned.
Yeah, it's very interesting that the Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill are fighting this fight, and is a hill that they're willing to die on. Considering the fact that poll after poll, we see that the majority of Americans, up to 81%, over 70% of Democrats, and almost over 90% of Republicans actually want tighter restrictions on voter ID. And they don't have a problem with this. And some believe that it's sort of a little bit disenfranchising on the part of the Democratic lawmakers, because it makes people think that people that are in marginalized communities don't have the ability to get their paperwork done, or they're not educated enough to go and sign up for an ID. So it's receiving backlash on that front as well. But nonetheless, the House did pass a similar act back in 2024. Once it got to the Senate, they didn't even take it up. There are experts who believe that the Senate is going to kill this, considering the fact that it's unlike the House of Representatives. The rules of the Senate is they have a filibuster. They need a 60-vote margin threshold, where the Democrats, about a dozen of them, have to vote with the Republicans for this to be passed. And it doesn't seem like the Republicans have this vote. The Senate doesn't have this vote.
All right, Susan, thanks very much for getting us a perspective on how this moves forward and what this means for America. Thank you very much.